On to our top story. First, property consultant Knight Frank's Q3 2025 numbers have revealed that the big three South Indian markets, that's Bengaluru, Hyderabad and Chennai, have accounted for the most transactions in the July to September period. Now, Bengaluru led the way with 4.2 million square feet worth of transactions, with Hyderabad and Chennai not far behind, recording transactions of 2.9 million and 2.8 million square feet respectively. In fact, Bengaluru and Hyderabad also led the way in terms of new office space completions, with Bengaluru accounting for over 5.9 million square feet in just new completions alone this quarter, significantly ahead of second-placed Hyderabad that saw about 1.6 million square feet in new completions. Incidentally, and not surprisingly, the GCC segment was the primary growth driver in the Hyderabad and Chennai office markets, recording a 45% and 51% share of all transaction volumes in both these markets. So what's propelling South India's office market into orbit? To help us make sense of this data, I'm now joined by Vivek Rathi, National Director of Research at Knight Frank India. Vivek, first up, thanks so much for joining us on the broadcast. What do you make of the big three South Indian office space markets putting up a top shelf performance in the quarter? Is it primarily the GCC boom that's powering these numbers?
Yeah, Judith. So there are a range of factors. See, the way the southern cities, particularly Bangalore and along with it Chennai and Hyderabad have come up is not a surprise, just that the momentum has accelerated over the last few years. And in this period, we're seeing record performance. Now, if you look at the overall numbers, the overall on India office market numbers are a tad bit lower compared to the same quarter last year, about 6% lower. But if you only look at these three cities, Bangaluru, Hyderabad, and Chennai, collectively, they are recording a 5 to 6% growth in demand. So that is the kind of outperformance we've seen. Range of factors, like I said, GCCs have been the driving factor across the pan-India numbers, but particularly more so for these three cities. Now, if you look at the GCC demand share across all of these cities, 37-38% is being contributed by GCCs. But when you simply look at these three cities account for almost 75 to 80% of the GCC demand in the country. So that is the prominence because of which these cities have come up very strongly in this period.
Right. In fact, like you rightly said, even among the South, Bengaluru stood head and shoulders above the rest when it came to not just new completions, but transactions too. And this despite seeing a year-on-year dip of 21%. Of course, a year-till-date increase of 63%, but more significantly, a 21% dip in year-on-year transactions. So given the infrastructure challenges that keep getting spoke of in any conversation about Bengaluru, Vivek, how does one make sense of the appetite really for the city here in terms of office space transactions?
So one is we'll have to recognize that infrastructure challenges are not peculiar of Bangalore alone. We've seen our share of infrastructure challenges in whether in the Delhi, NCR, Gurgaon, to be more specifically, or in Mumbai and other cities. So that is one important factor which kind of creates a ridicule amongst market participants, particularly global corporates who are coming into these markets, including Bangalore. Government is taking its own effort. Private sector enterprises are also trying to participate with the government to address. But yes, more has to be done, and it has to be done very quickly. How does it, impact? Like I said, yes, it does remain a factor. But then there are bigger factors because of which some of these markets, particularly Bangalore, have been on an automatic mode now after the initial work that happened a decade or two ago. Because of which the factors in terms of talent availability, the high quality tech talent which is available in the city, and the ecosystem, right from startups to large corporates, and also the supply side, particularly when it comes to providing commercial office space ecosystem, all of them have contributed for Bengaluru's prominence. And in that light, infrastructure is a factor which comes into consideration, but then is often overlooked because of these other reasons.
Right. Now, you spoke to us just a little while ago, of course, about how GCCs were a key protagonist in these impressive growth numbers across South India's office markets. So let's shift focus to GCCs for a bit. Now, this segment alone, you pointed it out, has accounted for nearly 50% of all office transactions in Hyderabad and Chennai. What is the growth rate that you project and foresee in this segment across South India in the years to come?
So sure, like I said, South India is the magnet for GCC activity. All of the offshoring activity, even when it began with a decade ago, primarily with the IT outsourcing, which was generally on the BPO side. That or even now GCCs, because of the ecosystem which these cities provide, the momentum is strong. How is this momentum likely to pan out? Now, if we look at this period, Q3 2025 versus the same period last year, there has been a little dip in terms of the GCC demand activity. Having said so, the trend is still looking upwards. What that means is if these corporates continue to find merit in offshoring activity, particularly through the GCC route, they will prefer these three cities over others in the country. And therefore, whether it is the headwinds that have come in terms of some of these H1B visa or others, those are one side of it. But having said so, GCC activity is likely to continue on account of the long term fundamental factors which are still in place, right from your talent availability to the cost of real estate space to the ecosystem which is a top of class right now in these markets.
Let's shift focus to rents for a bit, Vivek. What are your rental projections for South India? For instance, Bengaluru and Hyderabad in the quarter gone by saw a 9% and 6% rental appreciation, respectively, on a year-to-year basis. So, given the massive inventory buildup that's now taking form and shape in these cities, do you think this momentum is likely to continue?
So, if we look at the inventory position, particularly reference from the perspective of vacancy levels, those have continued to trend down over the last 4 or 5 years across the country. Even in these markets, vacancy levels have come down. For instance, Bangalore and Chennai are at sub 10% vacancy levels. Hyderabad as well, near about 13-14% vacancy levels. Some of these prime markets are witnessing short supply. So even if you look at the 2025 period, supply has been way short of demand, and therefore rentals have continued to trend up, both on account of the value proposition, which kind of comes at a cost in terms of all of these spaces that are coming up, and also to do with the demand supply imbalance which we've seen over the last few years as the developer focus moved towards residential in the last 3-4 years. So what do we expect on account of it? We expect rental growth to continue. This period we saw rent growth way ahead of the 5% contractual escalation clauses, which are generally there in these term sheets. And this is likely to continue in the near term because of the strong demand trajectory. And supply is also not expected to come back, in a very prominent manner in the next 1 to 2 years.
Right, Vivek, on that note, we'd like to thank you for joining us and bringing us those much needed insights to that data. South India looking up. And Vivek, always a pleasure speaking with you here on ET Now.
Thank you.
Right, moving on to some corporate news now. Mahindra and Mahindra has made headlines with the launch of the new Bolero and the Bolero Neo. Buoyed by GST cuts, the auto major has also impressed market observers by slashing prices across its Bolero range to below 10 lakh rupees. In a chat that I took with Mahindra and Mahindra a little earlier today, in fact, the company's head of sales, Baneswar Banerjee, he said that the launches will see sales of the Bolero grow anywhere between 20 and 25% across the OEM's South Indian markets. Here's a slice of that conversation.
All this that we are doing in terms of interiors, the colors, the features that we have added, I think this will really help us kind of increase the volumes in South India by at least 20 to 25% of what we are doing now. That's the potential that I see with because we will get new customer base coming into buying these two products.
What you're saying is interesting. 20-25% increase in sales volumes year on year, starting this year and next year itself. Is that the projection?
I'm saying 20-25% as compared to what we have been doing or what we have been currently doing. I think with all this, we should see an upside of 20-25%.
What will be the primary growth driver? Now, I understand that the GST rationalization, of course, all OEMs have been speaking about as a major factor insofar as sales growth is concerned. I'm sure that's the case with you as well. But to project a significant growth figure of 20-25% year on year in South India, what will drive this performance mainly, Mr. Banerjee?
So the first thing is that, we went back and we studied what South customers want, okay, and then we studied that across the country, and these were the certain things that people said that, we want a good music system which is kind of which has the touchscreen facility. We want the vehicle to look very modern from outside, and that's the reason you see the jeans blue color that we have brought in, the dual tone that we have brought in. In Bolero, we get the black color, which was not there. Okay. The entire interior theme to make it more car-like, So that was the need, which was something which was missing as far as our erstwhile Bolero was concerned. So these all added, and the entire price point. And obviously GST has a huge role to play in that. Apart from that, our engineering, design and design team to have packaged it so well so that we are able to price it under 10 lakhs.
No doubt, both the GST rationalization.
So all this put together is going to. So it's a complete package, I would say, and the upside is going to come from. That we are going to enlarge the consumer base as well, by doing all this together.
Right. You talk about enlarging the consumer base. So where will the chunk of these consumers now come from within South India? In fact, I read a statistic recently which said that both the Chennai and Coimbatore markets, for example, actually purchase SUVs at a far greater pace than the rest of the country. And you don't normally associate SUV purchases with a South Indian consumer mindset. Is that necessarily the case? And if yes, which are the key markets in South India that will power your growth?
So, Chennai is an important market. Chennai does really, really good for us. Coimbatore is another market. Madurai as a territory is another market that will do well for us because inherently Bolero has been a very strong brand there. Down south, which is Tirunelveli, is something that we have seen a good acceptance of Bolero in that market. So these are four, and we see Bolero also doing well in Trichy. That's as far as Tamil Nadu is concerned. When it comes to Karnataka, we see a good traction coming in from Tumkur, good traction coming in from Hubli, good traction coming in from Mangalore. Bolero Neo will do well in Bangalore MMR region, which is not the core Bangalore, but surroundings of Bangalore is something that Bolero Neo should do well. Kerala, we will see few people who had moved out of us will come back. Calicut, Ernakulam, Trivandrum. These are three big markets that we are pretty confident of. And when it comes to AP and Telangana, your Karimnagar, Warangal, your Adilabad, that territory for Bolero will do well. The entire AP, which is the entire coastal belt, and Bolero has been doing very, very good when it comes to Nellore, Tirupati, Vijayawada, Vizag. So these are some strong markets that we believe is where we are going to get the upside from.
Well, M&M, they're betting big on South India. Well, moving on from cars to rockets now, Chennai-based space tech startup Agnikul Cosmos has launched India's first ever 3D printing facility for rocket parts, including engines. The center not only allows the startup to build rocket parts end-to-end, but brings down the timeline for crucial rocket engine production from 9 months to just about 9 days, including quality checks. Earlier today, I took a tour of the facility and spoke exclusively to the IIT Madras incubated startup founders about what Agnikul's newfound capabilities now mean for Indian space tech.
Our primary product line is for launch vehicles, right? Rockets basically. Rockets that carry various capacities of, payloads to various points in orbit. So the first focus of this facility is going to be about building our rockets well. And not only from the engine standpoint, but from an end-to-end standpoint. So we talk about manufacturing, we always talk about quality, we talk about all the processes and controls in place. Like they always say, right, it's easy to do one engine. It's probably also somewhat easy to do 10 engines. But 1,000 engines, that's a different story altogether. Right. That too within the constraints of what this industry allows you to operate. So I think from a product standpoint, we're still fixed on launch vehicles for commercial applications. That's always going to be the go-to. That's where we see the most business opportunity. That's what we are also driven by a vision standpoint, right? But a facility like this allows us to also start looking at other areas as well. And we'll be strategic about it. So one thing you may have heard about, in space tech generally is lot of technology always starts in space tech, like the GPS, for example, but then we've started using it in everything else. Absolutely. So similarly, everything that we build in Agnikul, because we do all the technologies in-house, the software, the electronics, the autopilot, everything is done in-house. We see these are all like, at some point, maybe these could be business streams by themselves.
Absolutely.
But today the focus is on launch vehicles, commercialization, doing more and more of those, and doing the right set of facilities in-house to get there.
All right. And in terms of efficiency itself, Moin, is there a big markup or a step up now in terms of how efficiently you can go about manufacturing, especially with the launch of the new facility?
Oh yes, I think, additive manufacturing has that advantage of saving time. Right. If I could give a good example is if you're conventionally trying to manufacture a rocket engine, it would at least take you 9 months. 6 months to manufacture and 3 months for the qualification process. But with us, it's just almost like a week for the biggest size that I'm talking about. Right. A smaller engines are capable of printing in 3 days. And the best part of it is you get the report from the machine itself whether it's qualified or not. And now, who gives you that from 9 months to 9 days? That itself is a story in itself. And that's exactly what a startup needs. The saving of time is what actually builds startups. And that's what our core differentiator is well. And that's how we are actually thinking of the launch vehicles per se. And this allows you not to just have the inventory fixed, right? Because if you see the other companies, they would be wanting to have a fixed inventory about it. Because the timeline is so small, you don't need to have a fixed inventory. It allows you to just print on demand.
But Moin, what will be the key focus area for you? We spoke just a little while ago about how efficiencies are now, better than they've ever been before, and the fact is that you have, the whole, you have the whole menu right there to choose from what you would like to do in terms of, concise timelines for manufacturing itself. So for Agnikul itself, what will your focus be going forward?
I think the two things. One is building a rocket is stressing about the quality that you can get out of the product itself. The second part is about the launching of the rocket. So these are two independent streams itself. We would like to focus on the launching of product as well because that's the key aspect. That's what interfaces with the world. Product quality is internal, but as you bring out and if the product works, it speaks to the world. Right. So we are focusing it into two ways. One is for the product quality in-house as well as practicing ourselves for the launch operations. That's where the focus is.
Absolutely. And in terms of growth itself, I know for a fact there's been so much focus on unit economics and revenue growth, so to speak, even as startups are now looking to hit the next gear in terms of growth. What would be the growth rate for you going forward on the revenue front, and where do you see yourself going from here?
So growth rate, we could talk about it in multiple ways, right? One is from pure financial standpoint, that's in terms of dollars of revenue. But we like to think of it in terms of how a space company would talk about it, which is mass in orbit, right? That's how a space transportation company is measured. So for us, putting up, 15 tons or 20 tons a year, per year, every single year, that's how we look at it. The revenue could come from that either as a multiple of, say, $20,000 per kg, $40,000, $50,000. A lot of numbers keep floating around, right? But we are in the business of putting mass in orbit. Right. And so for us, growth is about doing as many launches as possible to address the current demand.
So what's the target like at the moment?
So I'll tell you the market size that's available, right? And, a fraction of that could be a target. Like today, in the space we operate, 100 tons is available every year to put in orbit. Right. 100 tons every single year. And in that, it is basically left to us if we want to do all the 100 or do 5 tons or something. Obviously, we're choosing to get to as much as possible towards 20, 25 tons a year to orbit. But that is possible with the rockets with more launch frequency.
Well, believe it if you will, rocket parts straight out of a 3D printer in a lab at the IIT Madras Incubated facility in Chennai. Well, moving on, Indian Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal is in Qatar to co-chair the first meeting of the India-Qatar Joint Commission on Trade and Commerce. Times Network's Madhadas Gopalakrishnan caught up with Lulu Retail's Group Director of Global Operations, Mohammad Altaf, to understand what India can expect from the deal itself. Here's a slice of that conversation.
No, it's a very important visit for the reason that this is followed by a very highly successful visit by His Highness Amir to Qatar, and we had some very serious follow-up visits from Indian side. Now, Qatar Indian business, Qatar was always, India was always the most favorite trade partner for Qatar, but over the years, Qatar's economy has changed, its priorities has changed, just like India has changed a lot. So today, I think that this is not going to be transactional anymore. What Qatar and Indian side is expecting is to take it to next level, where there will be joint investments. Qatar is looking for a lot of joint ventures to come to Qatar from India. And Qatar has created a fantastic infrastructure in terms of global trade. Qatar has a world-class port. It has a Qatar Financial Center. We have nice airports. So Qatar is expecting Indian companies to move in here. And Qatar has got very favorable trade deals and treaties with different countries around the world. We hope that this partnership, this synergy will work and the momentum will continue. We hope the investment will go up far more than what we have predicted last year. We were expecting to have about 10 billion Qatari investment coming to India. I am very confident that with this kind of visits and mutual exchanges, this will go up further.
Which are the sectors in which you are expecting to see a lot more?
See, traditionally there are a lot of other areas that we cooperate, like energy, food security. I think going beyond this, it's going to be on the financial markets and specifically on digital transformation. Qatar wants to become a center of innovation, wants to attract global talent, specifically to the Asian subcontinent, and then use Qatar for smart manufacturing and AI or artificial intelligence related businesses in Qatar. I think that is where there will be a lot of synergy. And again, high-tech pharmaceuticals, precision medicines, there are so many areas that Qatar is very active.
Well, the Kerala and Abu Dhabi-based Lulu Group, they're bullish about India-Qatar trade relations and their future. Staying with Kerala, it was chaos yet again for the second successive day, in fact, at the Kerala Assembly as Congress-led opposition MLAs stormed the floor of the House. Opposition lawmakers have been demanding the resignation of the state's Devaswam Minister V.N. Vasan over allegations of theft at the Sabrimala temple. Congress MLAs in the state have been up in arms over the last 2 days now, claiming that nearly 5 kgs of gold have been stolen from the prominent and revered temple. The gold in question, the Congress claims, was donated by former United Spirits chairperson Vijay Mallya for plating some of the idols within the temple. While the Pinarayi Vijayan-led UDF government has rejected calls for its minister's resignation, it has said it is willing to discuss the matter in the House. Well, with that, it's a wrap on this edition of South Central. You now know where to tune in to get the lowdown on all that matters to South India. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. But for the moment, it's goodbye from us.